Hey everyone, my name's Dom, welcome back to the channel. Today's video is a quick fire 20 questions to find out a bit more about my reading history and preferences, so stick around. I was asked to do the 20 questions tag by Megan from Megan's Reading Revelations. I'll link her tag video in the description box below. Go check it out if you haven't already done so. But this is a quick 20 questions primarily about my reading history and preferences. So why bother waiting around? Let's just get straight on into it. Question 1. How many books is too many in a series? Answer for that one, quite frankly, is one more book than is necessary to bring the story to a satisfactory conclusion. I'm not one of these who says that a series has to be 3 or 4 or 5 books. It doesn't matter for me. As long as I'm enjoying it, it could be as long as it likes. Some of my favourite series are pretty long. Shadows of the Apt is 10 books, Wheel of Time is 14 books, so it can be done as long as the story is good. I don't care how long it is, and quite frankly, I'd like it to continue as long as I'm enjoying it. Question 2, how do I feel about cliffhangers? I don't really have strong opinions on cliffhangers. I don't mind them as long as we're not left hanging for too long. So as long as it does get resolved and we're not waiting several years for the next book to bring it to a close. Question 3, hardcover or paperback? And I do most of my reading nowadays on the Kindle, so in terms of the actual kind of feel of the book as I'm reading it, it doesn't really make a vast amount of difference to me. I guess previously I would have said paperback, purely because they're a little bit lighter and easier to carry around. I used to commute and take a book in my bag with me, so that would make it easier if it was a paperback. As far as the way they look on the shelves, I think maybe hardback do look a bit better. In many cases you can still get the hardcover before you can get the paperback, so obviously that's a plus point in the hardbacks corner, but I'm not really too bothered if I'm honest. Question 4 is my favourite book, and that's a tough one to nail down. I'm going to go with this guy though, Wrath, Book 4 of the Faithful and the Fallen by John Gwynne. It's my favourite series, and this is probably just edging out Ruin as my favourite book in the series, because I do love a close to a good series as long as it's done well. So I'm going for this guy. Question 5 is the opposite. What's my least favourite book? I'm probably going to go with this one being The Red Knight by Miles Cameron. I had some pretty strong negative feelings for this book. Lots of people like it and that's fantastic for them. It's just not one for me, and it's probably the one book, especially the one book that I didn't like, that I can talk quite passionately on if you let me. So Red Knight by Miles Cameron definitely I would say is my least favourite book. Question 6, love triangles, yes or no? Again, this is something I don't really mind. I don't have very strong feelings one way or another for them. As long as they're done well, that's fine. I don't go looking for love triangles, and to be honest, in the books that I read, you don't tend to get too many of them, which is, I guess, fine for me. So if I had to go for an answer, I guess I'd therefore probably say no, but I'm not really bothered, to be honest. As long as it is done well, it should be fine. Question 7 is the most recent book that I just couldn't finish. I don't generally tend to DNF books. I think I'm pretty good as far as that goes, so I'll probably have to go quite far back to find one. I did, however, try out an audiobook which I was really trying to like, but I just couldn't get through, and that was Tower Lord, Book 2 of A Raven Shadow by Anthony Ryan. Really enjoyed Book 1, Blood Song. Wanted to get back into and continue with the series, but Tower Lord, I don't know whether it was because it was audio, because I'd left it too long between books, or just because it really wasn't for me. I have heard that there is a bit of a drop-off between the books in this series from various people who've read them, so maybe it is the book rather than me in this case, I don't know. But Tower Lord by Anthony Ryan. Question 8 is a book I'm currently reading. I should title this one The Book I'm Currently Reading, because I'm not one of these people who can read multiple books at the same time, but I'm currently about 50% of the way through a review copy of Among Thieves by MJ Kuhn, so there'll be a review of that one coming out shortly. It's released in September, so the review should be available within the next week or so. Question 9 is the last book that I recommended to someone. So I'm going to skip answers which are books where people have asked specific info on them, or whether they've actually prompted it and asked for opinions and so forth. So the one that I've specifically recommended kind of out of the blue, Patrick in the Wizardly Duo Discord a couple of days ago was asking for a fantasy setting where you've got a character who is trying to solve a murder. So I recommended Drakenfeld by Mark Cheran-Newton. This is a book that I read nearly 10 years ago. It's a review copy actually, this is an uncorrected proof, but I really quite enjoyed this one. I thought it was quite inventive. Some good detective work in this. It's kind of a closed room murder scenario, so I don't really tend to read these books. I don't see too many of them in the fantasy setting, but this one got my recommendation partly because of that, and partly, of course, because it was just a good book. Question 10 is the oldest book I've read by publication date. That would be, according to Goodreads, The Hobbit, September 1937. Give it a little twist there to show off the spot varnishing on the cover. I have read books which are older than this. I've read Macbeth, for instance, that I can remember at school, but I'm only going by what I've read for pleasure, because why would I count anything that I was forced to read over something that I read by my own choice? And then question 11 is the newest book I've read by publication date. This one's only just been released actually on August the 10th, I think it was. It was a review copy that I read of The Maleficent 7 by Cameron Johnson, and I'll link up in the cards above my video review of this book. Question 12, who is my favourite author? This is another one that I've had to think a little bit about, because I don't generally tend to think in terms of who's my favourite author. I've just got a list of authors who I like. For the purposes of this video though, I have narrowed it down, and it was between the top two, I would say, of John Gwynne and Adrian Tchaikovsky. I'm going to go with Tchaikovsky purely because of the range and the quantity of quality books that he's released. Question 13, buying books or borrowing books? For me, it's definitely buying books. I don't actually visit the library. I go there occasionally with my daughter because she likes reading books. So we go there every now and then to get some new books out for her. So we borrow for her, but for me, it's buy. Question 14 is a book that I dislike that everyone else seems to like. And this one, okay, maybe not everyone else seems to like. There is definitely a group, including myself, who do not like this book, but it's Prince of Thorns by Mark Lawrence. This one I just really didn't get on with. It's not quite the Red Knight in terms of how passionately I can kind of describe my dislike for it. It's just a case of it wasn't for me. It just really didn't work for me, and I did not like this one at all. Question 15 is bookmarks or dog ears? And to quote something that I saw on Discord recently for this one, who dog ears books? Psychopaths? But seriously, it is for me bookmarks. Where I don't generally tend to read physical books at the moment, I do not have actual bookmarks these days, but what I generally do is just use a train ticket. Question 16 is a book that I can always reread. I don't really reread books. There's not many books that I have reread. I guess if I was to give a hypothetical answer, I'd say probably the Faithful and the Fallen series I could reread because it's my favourite series. Otherwise, I have just finished a reread of Empire in Black and Gold by Adrian Tchaikovsky for a read-along, and I really enjoyed that. I'm going to continue with at least the first 4 books in the series, so I'm going to go with these guys, Shadows of the Apt as a series rather than a single book by Adrian Tchaikovsky. Question 17 is, can I read whilst listening to music or whilst hearing music? And the answer to that one is a straight no. I pretty much have to have silence. I do get distracted when I'm reading, even if I'm really into a book. If someone's got the TV on too loud in the next room, for instance, it really distracts me from it. So music is a definite no for me. 18 is one POV or multiple POVs. I'd probably go for multiple point of view characters for this one, purely because I like to get in the heads of the characters, and to be honest, also reading adult fantasy, there are generally going to be times when characters will die, and if you're reading a single POV, you pretty much know that character's going to make it, so it kind of takes away some of the stakes, I guess. Whereas with multiple POV, some of those characters can die, and in the books I've read, they do die, and that's something that I like. It adds a bit more realism, and it makes each character that little bit more important, because you don't know whether they're going to make it and what impact they're going to have throughout the story and throughout the entire series. And of course, there's that whole attachment. If you get into the heads of characters, you get more attached to more of them, and then that's more possibility that some of your favourite characters are going to die. And although it's sad to see your favourite characters die, I do generally see it as a good thing if it's done right, if it fits the story, and of course if it's not just a case of these characters going through peril, but they always survive. Question 19 is, do I read a book in one sitting or over multiple days? And again, this kind of goes back to the type of books I read. I read adult fantasy. They're generally 400, 500, 600 pages plus, so I definitely read them in multiple sittings. At the moment, I'm probably averaging, depending on the size of the book and other various external factors, I'm taking about a week to 2 weeks to finish a book. So definitely that. I can think of only about once or twice in my life that I've actually read a book in one sitting, purely because of my reading pace and the size of the books that I read. And question 20 is, who do I tag? And the answer to that is no one. Plenty of people have been tagged on this one. I'm not going to pick people out individually to ask them to do it. So if you see this tag and you want to do it for yourself, knock yourselves out. I'd like to see what your answers are, but it's completely up to you. So who do I tag? You. There you go then, 20 quick questions. I hope this gives you a bit of an insight into my reading style. Let me know in the comments below if you've got any different answers to these, or if you've got any strong or even weak feelings about any of the answers that I gave. I'd love to hear from you. Now before you go, don't forget to give a like and subscribe buttons a little tickle. I'll see you in another video soon, but until then, as always, take care of yourselves and read some good books. Bye bye for now.